You're holding a cup of coffee, hot, fragrant, invigorating. Just a drink, right? A simple way to kickstart your morning. But what if I told you that within this very cup lies a hidden history of spies, revolutions, brilliant inventions, and yes, even dancing goats? Today, we're going to unveil 20 fascinating facts about coffee that will make you look at your morning ritual in a completely new light. Prepare to be amazed. Let's start at the very beginning with a legend that sounds more like a fairy tale. The story goes that coffee was first discovered by an Ethiopian goat herder named Kaldi. He noticed his goats, after munching on berries from a particular bush, became incredibly energetic, literally dancing. Curious, Kaldi decided to try the berries himself, and that's how the world first learned about the invigorating effect of what we now know as coffee beans. From those dancing goats to the cup in your hand, it's been a long journey, full of adventure and surprises. So let's kick things off with something completely unexpected. When you think of coffee, you probably picture a hot, fragrant liquid in a cup, right? But what if I told you that coffee wasn't originally drunk at all? Yes, you heard that right. It was eaten. This practice dates back centuries to ancient African tribes, particularly the Oromo people of Ethiopia, the birthplace of coffee. They were the first to discover the stimulating properties of the plant, but their use for it was entirely different. Their recipe was a far cry from a latte or cappuccino. They would take ripe coffee berries, whole, pulp, and bean included. They would then meticulously grind them and mix them with animal fat. From this dense, rich paste, they moulded small balls. The result was essentially an ancient energy bar. It was a high-calorie and powerfully stimulating food, an ideal snack for warriors before battle, or for shepherds during long treks with their herds. The taste, most likely, was very distinctive, but the goal wasn't gastronomic pleasure. The aim was pure, concentrated energy that helped them survive. The idea of brewing and drinking coffee came much, much later. Believe it or not, this drink, now a staple in every cafe, was once outlawed. When coffee first spread across the Arabian Peninsula, it gave birth to an entire culture, the coffee house. These establishments quickly became vibrant centres of social life. They were even dubbed schools for the wise. Here, patrons didn't just savour the stimulating brew. They chatted, played chess, enjoyed music, and crucially, debated current events and politics. And this, naturally, didn't sit well with the ruling powers. Governments began to view coffee houses as hotbeds of dissent and potential conspiracy. In 16th century Mecca, the situation escalated dramatically. The local ruler declared coffee a forbidden, sinful drink, claiming it clouded the mind just like wine and encouraged subversive thinking. It was officially outlawed. Coffee shops were forcibly closed, and stockpiles of beans were burned. Yet, the public's passion for coffee proved far more resilient than any prohibition. The ban was short-lived, swiftly overturned by public outcry, and the coffee houses once again welcomed their patrons. However, this was merely the inaugural instance in a long history of authorities attempting to exert control over this humble, yet incredibly influential beverage. Now let's talk about money. Big money. Have you ever stopped to think about coffee's role in the global economy? Well, your morning cup isn't just a drink. It's a tiny cog in a massive global machine. Coffee is one of the most valuable and actively traded commodities on the planet. What does that mean? It means it ranks right alongside resources like sugar, gold, and even crude oil. In many economic rankings, coffee proudly holds the second spot in terms of traded volume, surpassed only by crude oil. Just consider the sheer scale of it. This is a multi-billion-dollar industry, providing livelihoods for over 25 million people worldwide, predominantly small-scale farmers in developing nations. This entire process, from the harvesting of berries in the mountains of Colombia, to the roasting of beans in Italy, and finally to the brewing of a latte in your favourite cafe, represents an enormous economic chain. So, when you pay for your cappuccino, you're not just buying a drink, you're actively participating in global trade, supporting the economies of entire nations. Coffee truly is liquid gold. For all you perfectionists out there, Here's a fascinating fact that proves genius and eccentricity often go hand in hand. We're talking about none other than the legendary composer Ludwig van Beethoven. Known for his brilliant music, brimming with passion and drama, in his everyday life, he was incredibly demanding and meticulously pedantic. And this meticulousness extended even to his morning cup of coffee. Beethoven was so fixated on achieving the perfect brew that he simply wouldn't trust anyone else to prepare it for him. Every single morning, he would personally, with his own hands, count out precisely 60 coffee beans for his serving. Not 59, not 61, but precisely 60. For him, it was far more than just a drink. It was a sacred ritual, almost a consecration. Perhaps he truly believed this exact number of beans yielded the perfect balance of flavour and strength. Or maybe this monotonous counting process helped him focus his mind, bringing order to his thoughts before he sat down at the piano to create his immortal symphonies. Either way, it vividly illustrates just how deeply coffee can be woven into the lives, and indeed, the creative processes of truly great individuals. Now let's dive into one of the most exotic and frankly controversial topics in the world of coffee. Have you ever heard of Kopi Luwak? It's often called the most expensive coffee globally, with a single kilogram fetching hundreds or even thousands of dollars. But the reason for its price isn't a rare bean or a special roasting technique. It's all about its rather unique production method. This process involves a small, cat-like animal, the civet, or luwak, as it's known in Indonesia. This creature absolutely loves to feast on ripe, juicy coffee cherries, selectively picking only the best, most succulent fruits. But here's the twist. The actual coffee beans inside the cherries are not digestible by its system. As they pass through the civet's digestive tract, the beans are exposed to unique enzymes. This process is known as fermentation. Then, let's just say the beans are eventually expelled naturally. Local farmers then collect these droppings, thoroughly wash them, sun-dry them, and lightly roast them. Connoisseurs claim that this distinctive processing removes bitterness and imparts an incredibly smooth, chocolate caramel flavour. While it might sound shocking, Kopi Luwak remains one of the most sought-after delicacies for coffee enthusiasts worldwide. But the name Americano, familiar to anyone who's ever stepped into a coffee shop, actually has its own fascinating military history. It all began during World War II in Italy. American soldiers stationed there were accustomed to their coffee from home. Large, not too strong, typically drip coffee, served in big mugs. Italian espresso, however, was a completely different story. A small cup, a strong, thick, concentrated drink. For the American soldiers, it was simply too intense and unfamiliar. So they came up with a simple yet ingenious solution. They asked local baristas to dilute a shot of espresso with hot water. This helped to increase the volume and mellow the taste, making it more akin to what they were used to back home. The Italians, watching these foreign soldiers ruin what they considered their perfect brew, wryly began to refer to this diluted coffee as Caffè Americano, or American-style coffee. The name stuck. And so, thanks to the soldiers' resourcefulness and the Italians' good-natured irony, one of the world's most popular coffee drinks was born, a drink we still order today. Speaking of coffee strength, let's debunk a very popular myth. What do you think gives you a bigger jolt? A tiny cup of espresso or a large mug of regular drip coffee? Most people, without a second thought, would say, espresso, of course. After all, it has such a powerful, concentrated flavour. It feels like the ultimate coffee power source. And there's some truth to that, but only some. Yes, if we compare equal volumes, say 30 millilitres of espresso versus 30 millilitres of drip coffee, then espresso will indeed have more caffeine. It truly is more concentrated. But here's the trick. It's all about serving size. A standard espresso shot is typically around 30 millilitres. Now, think about your usual morning mug. It usually holds 200, sometimes even 250 millilitres of coffee. And because of this much larger volume, the total amount of caffeine in your big mug ends up being significantly higher than in a single small espresso. So if you're looking for a truly powerful and long-lasting energy boost, a large cup of simple filter coffee might be far more effective than that small but proud espresso. Caffeine is a powerful stimulant, and just like any substance, there's a limit to how much is safe. Yes, purely in theory, coffees could be deadly. But before you start eyeing your coffee maker with suspicion, let me put your mind at ease. In practice, reaching that fatal dose is virtually impossible. Scientists estimate that the lethal dose of caffeine for an average adult is somewhere between 150 and 200 milligrams per kilogram of body weight. To put that in perspective, if you weigh, say, 70 kilograms, that's roughly 150 pounds, you'd need to consume around 14,000 milligrams of caffeine. That's the equivalent of about 100 to 120 cups of regular coffee, all consumed in a very short period. Get the picture? Your body simply couldn't physically hold that much liquid. Long before you even approach that dangerous threshold, you'd be experiencing severe side effects, intense heart palpitations, dizziness, and nausea. Your body would simply scream, "Enough!" So go ahead and comfortably enjoy your morning and even your afternoon cup. Coffee is your friend, not your enemy, as long as you know your limits. All right, let's play a little game. Name the most coffee-loving nation. Who comes to mind? Perhaps the charismatic Italians, expertly crafting espresso on every street corner. Or maybe Americans with their enormous Starbucks lattes. Well, guess again. Neither of those is right. When it comes to per capita coffee consumption, the global leaders live much further north. Prepare to be surprised. The world's biggest coffee drinkers are the Finns. That's right, the residents of cold and reserved Finland. The average Finn consumes around 12 kilograms of coffee per year. That's roughly 4 to 5 cups daily, sometimes even more. For them, coffee isn't just a way to wake up. It's an integral part of their culture and social life. They even have dedicated coffee breaks enshrined in their labour laws. Morning, noon and night, at work, at home, visiting friends. Coffee is consumed always and everywhere. Perhaps it helps them cope with those long, dark winters. So the next time you think you're a true coffee aficionado, remember the Finns and give a little smile. For many people looking to reduce their caffeine intake, decaf coffee seems like the perfect solution. It promises all the familiar flavour and aroma, but without the stimulating kick. But have you ever stopped to wonder how caffeine is actually removed from coffee beans? The process isn't as simple as you might think, and some of the methods might just surprise you. One of the most common industrial approaches involves chemical solvents. Green, unroasted coffee beans are first steeped in hot water, then transferred to a specialised solution. Most often, these are methylene chloride or ethyl acetate. These substances bind to the caffeine molecules, literally washing them out of the beans. Afterward, the beans are thoroughly rinsed with water, dried and roasted as usual. Manufacturers claim that only minuscule, safe traces of these solvents remain in the final product. Still, the very thought of their use can give some people pause. Of course, there are other, more natural methods, such as the Swiss water process, which uses only water and activated carbon filters. However, these are typically more expensive and complex. So, for most cups of decaf, a sophisticated chemical process is behind it all. We commonly refer to them as coffee beans. The phrase is so deeply ingrained in our everyday language that most of us never stop to think about what it actually means. But today, I'm going to let you in on a little botanical secret. What we call a bean isn't a true bean at all, botanically speaking. It's actually a seed, or, more precisely, the pit of a fruit. You see, a coffee plant isn't a grain, like wheat or rye. It's a shrub or a small tree that produces berries. These berries look a lot like cherries or cranberries, small, round, and they ripen to a vibrant, deep red colour. Inside each of these juicy, sweet berries, which are aptly called coffee cherries, you'll typically find two seeds. These very seeds are what we commonly refer to as Coffee beans. They nestle inside the fruit, usually pressed together with their flat sides. Before they ever reach your cup, these seeds undergo a lengthy process. They're extracted from the fruit's pulp, dried, and then roasted. So, technically speaking, every time you enjoy a cup of coffee, you're brewing the roasted and ground seeds of a fruit. That's right, coffee is a fruit. It might sound a little unusual at first, but it's the botanical truth. Coffee isn't just a beverage, it can also be a tool for espionage. Indeed, history tells of times when a simple coffee solution became a secret weapon for relaying clandestine messages. This method gained particular popularity during the 18th century, an era rife with intrigue and conspiracies. Picture this: a spy crafts an ordinary, seemingly innocuous letter, but between the lines, using a quill dipped in strong, cooled coffee, they would meticulously add a secret dispatch. Once the coffee dried, it would leave virtually no visible trace on the paper. The page appeared perfectly blank. Such a letter could then safely traverse enemy territory without fear of interception or decryption. So, how would the intended recipient uncover the hidden message? The key was remarkably straightforward. To reveal the invisible ink, one simply had to carefully dust the paper with coal or graphite powder. The fine particles would adhere to the dried coffee residue, making the secret text instantly visible. This was a simple, accessible, and remarkably effective method of cryptography for its era. So, coffee didn't just help people stay alert. It also played a covert role in safeguarding state secrets. Did you know coffee played a pivotal role in one of the most significant events in US history, the American Revolution? It all began with tea. In the 18th century, the American colonies were under British rule, and tea was the most popular beverage. But that changed when the British government imposed a hefty tax on tea, forcing colonists to buy exclusively from the British East India Company. This sparked widespread outrage. The protest culminated in the infamous Boston Tea Party of 1773, where colonists, disguised as Native Americans, boarded British ships and dumped an entire shipment of tea into the harbour. From that moment on, tea became a symbol of British oppression and tyranny. Rejecting tea became an act of patriotism, a powerful way to assert their independence. The colonists needed an alternative. That alternative was coffee. Drinking coffee became a clear demonstration of support for the revolution and the fight for liberty. Coffee houses transformed into hubs for revolutionaries, where plans were hatched and ideas forged, ideas that would eventually form the bedrock of the Declaration of Independence. Thus, a simple change in beverage became an integral part of a monumental historical shift. When we talk about coffee-producing countries, what's the first one that comes to mind? Colombia? Ethiopia? Perhaps, but there's one undisputed leader, a true giant that has dominated the global coffee market for over 150 years, and that's Brazil. The sheer scale of Brazilian production is simply astounding. This country produces roughly a third of all the world's coffee. To put that into perspective, it's more than Vietnam, Colombia, and Indonesia, the next three largest producers, produce combined. For Brazil, coffee isn't just an agricultural product, it's deeply woven into the national identity and economy. This connection is perfectly illustrated by a funny historical anecdote. Back in 1932, Brazil didn't have the funds to send its athletes to the Olympic Games in Los Angeles. So what did they do? They loaded 82 athletes onto a ship, along with 50,000 bags of coffee, and sent them on their way. En route, the team was supposed to stop at various ports and sell the coffee to raise money for their Olympic participation. It was certainly an adventurous plan, but it perfectly illustrates just how vital coffee is to the nation. Brazil truly is a coffee superpower. Even if you don't consider yourself a coffee expert, you've probably heard these two words, Arabica and Robusta. These are the two most important and popular types of coffee in the world, accounting for almost all global coffee production. But what's the difference between them? Let's find out. Imagine Arabica as a sophisticated aristocrat. Its beans are typically oval-shaped. It thrives high in the mountains, is very sensitive to climate, and demands meticulous care. But in return, it offers a whole palette of flavours. You might discover floral notes, fruity acidity, and even chocolatey sweetness. Arabica's aroma is complex and multifaceted, and it contains relatively little caffeine. Robusta, on the other hand, is its more robust and straightforward cousin. Its beans are rounder. It's less demanding, thrives on plains, and is highly resistant to diseases. Robusta's flavour is simpler and bolder, often characterised by a pronounced bitterness and earthy or nutty undertones. But its main distinction is its caffeine content. Robusta has nearly twice as much caffeine as Arabica. It's also responsible for that thick, rich creamer on your espresso. Most often, when you enjoy coffee at a cafe, you're drinking a blend of these two types, where Arabica contributes the nuanced flavour and aroma, while Robusta provides the strength and body. Many of us rely on coffee before work to kickstart our day and sharpen our focus. But what if I told you coffee could also be an incredible ally in your fitness routine? This isn't just anecdotal evidence, it's a scientifically proven fact. Just 1 cup of plain black coffee, consumed about an hour before your workout, can significantly boost your physical performance. How does it work? Caffeine stimulates your central nervous system, which helps improve concentration and reduces your perception of fatigue. You'll feel more energetic, allowing you to train longer and push harder. Furthermore, caffeine triggers the release of adrenaline, priming your body for intense physical exertion. It also helps your body tap into its fat reserves for fuel, preserving muscle glycogen. This is particularly beneficial for endurance sports like long-distance running, cycling, or swimming. Many professional athletes actively leverage this legal and readily available performance enhancer to boost their results. So, the next time you're heading to the gym or lacing up for a run, consider grabbing a cup of coffee. You might just surprise yourself with new personal bests. The history of technology is full of surprising twists and turns. While many great inventions have emerged from serious scientific research, the story of the world's first webcam is far more mundane and, frankly, quite amusing. It was born out of a combination of laziness and a profound love for coffee. The year was 1991, and the setting was a computer laboratory at Cambridge University. In this particular lab, there was only one coffee machine. It sat in the hallway, a considerable distance from most of the workstations. The scientists working there would often trek to the kitchen for their much-needed caffeine fix, only to frequently discover the pot was empty. It was incredibly frustrating to make the journey all for nothing. That's when 2 of them, Quentin Stafford Fraser and Paul Jardetsky, came up with a solution that was brilliant in its simplicity. They grabbed an old camera, pointed it squarely at the coffee pot, hooked it up to a computer, and wrote a simple program. This program would snap a picture of the coffee pot every few seconds and broadcast it across the local computer network. Now any team member could check the coffee level without even having to leave their desk. What started as a bit of a joke quickly gained incredible popularity. Then, in 1993, that very image of the coffee pot was put online, attracting viewers from all over the world. And so, thanks to a simple aversion to wasted trips to the kitchen, a device was born that is now ubiquitous, found in virtually every laptop and smartphone. What do you typically do with your used coffee grounds once you've brewed your morning cup? Chances are you just toss them straight into the bin. And that's a real shame, because those dark, aromatic grounds are actually a hidden treasure, packed with surprising uses around the house. First off, used coffee grounds make a fantastic natural fertilizer for many plants, especially those that thrive in acidic soil, like roses, hydrangeas, or azaleas. They're rich in nitrogen and other beneficial micronutrients. Secondly, they're an excellent natural body scrub. Their fine texture gently exfoliates dead skin cells, while residual caffeine can tone your skin and improve circulation. Just mix them with a little olive oil or your favourite shower gel, and you've got yourself an instant, luxurious spa treatment. Third, coffee boasts a strong, pleasant aroma that can easily neutralise less desirable odours. Simply place a small dish of dried coffee grounds in your fridge, and they'll work wonders absorbing any lingering unwanted smells. Finally, many pests, like ants, and even some neighbourhood cats who just love to treat your flower beds as their personal litter box. Can't stand the smell of coffee. Simply sprinkle some grounds in areas where you want to deter them. So, before you reach for the trash can, consider giving this valuable resource a second life. Picture this. It's a rough morning, you haven't had enough sleep, and you're feeling sluggish and drained. You drag yourself to the kitchen before you've even brewed a single cup, but that familiar aroma alone already starts to lift your spirits. Sound familiar? Well, it turns out it's not just your imagination. There's real science behind it. Research has shown that even just the scent of freshly ground or freshly brewed coffee can have a powerful impact on our brains. Scientists conducted experiments on lab rats that were stressed due to sleep deprivation. One group was exposed to the aroma of coffee beans, while the control group was not. They then analysed the gene activity in their brains, and the results were astonishing. The rats exposed to the coffee scent showed altered activity in 11 genes. Specifically, genes responsible for producing proteins with antioxidant properties, proteins that protect nerve cells from stress-induced damage, became more active. In simpler terms, a mere whiff of coffee helps our brains counteract the impact of insufficient sleep. So the next time you open a bag of coffee in the morning and take a deep breath of its aroma, you're not just enjoying it, you're actually kickstarting a complex biochemical process in your body that helps prepare you for the day ahead. And for our 20th and final fact, here's one that links coffee to the worlds of high-tech and finance. You're likely familiar with the mobile payment service Square. It's that little square device that plugs into a smartphone, allowing small businesses to easily accept credit card payments. Today, millions of small businesses worldwide rely on it. But did you know who invented it? It was none other than Jack Dorsey, co-founder and former CEO of Twitter, and the inspiration for this groundbreaking invention. You guessed it, coffee. The story goes that one of Dorsey's friends, a glass artist named Jim McKelvey, missed out on a lucrative sale because he couldn't accept a credit card payment from his customer. He simply didn't have the bulky, expensive terminal needed for card processing. Dorsey and McKelvey were brainstorming a solution to this very problem in a coffee shop. They wanted to create a simple, affordable, and mobile device for accepting payments. And right there, over a cup of coffee, the concept for Square was born. This anecdote perfectly illustrates how coffee shops and the humble beverage itself continue to play their historic role, fostering connections, inspiring conversations, and serving as the birthplace of brilliant, world-changing ideas. And now, for some truly astonishing moments that might just change the way you look at things. Just picture this. The world's first webcam wasn't invented for video calls, but purely out of sheer laziness and a deep love for coffee. So every video call you make, you're indirectly tipping your hat to a humble coffee pot in a Cambridge lab. Or imagine Beethoven, the legendary composer, unable to begin his masterpieces until he'd meticulously counted out his perfect 60 coffee beans. This wasn't just a quirky habit, it was a ritual, a vital part of his genius. And then there's the story of how coffee became a patriotic symbol in America, proving that even a simple cup can represent the fight for freedom. Coffee isn't just the fuel that gets us through the day, it's a silent witness to history, a true engine of progress and an enduring source of inspiration. So, the next time you're brewing a cup, remember you're holding more than just a beverage. You're holding a rich tapestry of history. Thanks for sticking with us to the end of this video. If you found these facts new and amazing, please hit that like button and subscribe to the channel so you don't miss out on more fascinating stories. Now for a question for you. Which coffee fact surprised you the most? Let us know in the comments below. We'd love to read your thoughts.